Okay, everybody. Hello, my name is Jesse Brisendine, and welcome back to another episode of A Handful of Hope. I have Sue with us today, who is a mother of four, three grown kiddos, one 14-year-old son still at home, who has her MSc degree in marriage and family therapy, specializes in trauma, EMDR, and juvenile sexual offender assessment. Sue enjoys her family time, playing with her dogs, cats, coloring, and learning new things. Sue, welcome and thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Oh, thank you, Jesse, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you and I were talking offline and I was sharing with you one of the things that's been so extraordinary about this whole process is how many people like yourself are stepping forward to share their magic, share some of their expertise with people and help. And I know one of your specialties is trauma, and right now probably quite a few people are under such a state of stress and dealing with so much fear and anxiety that they might be having some sort of traumatic response to this, whether they're just from their psychology, right? And so I was hoping maybe you could help us identify what are some signs, symptoms of people who might having some sort of traumatic response.
Sure. It's going to be different for everybody, obviously. And it really is dependent on maybe what their history is. So it could be something as little as being more irritable than normal, not being able to sleep as well, or wanting to sleep more. So, that trauma piece incorporates depression and anxiety and all those things that wind up together can fall under that umbrella of trauma. So I like to be really mindful and kind of realize within my own body, if I feel myself getting stressed, I kind of stop and say, okay, so what's going on with me right at the moment?
Mm.
So I've really identified it myself, and I encourage all of my clients to do it, especially my kiddos, to kind of think about how your body feels when you are happy, when you're content, because I believe those are two different things. When you're sad, when you're angry, when you're stressed. So sometimes you're going to feel it in your stomach, sometimes your chest, sometimes it just feels like your head is kind of foggy.
Mm.
So really getting a handle on how your body reacts to different things, and then just sitting down and going, okay, well, what am I upset about or what am I stressed about? Oh, the bill's getting paid. Okay, so what can I do about that right this second? And sometimes there isn't anything to do.
Mm.
Sometimes it is we have to accept the situation and kind of put it on the table, so to speak, and say, okay, it's there and I can deal with it when A, B, and C happens.
You mentioned kiddos a minute ago, and that just gave me a thought. For parents right now who are at home and
Right.
the families are under one roof and they may be trying to figure out how to explain what's going on with their kids, and is there a way that they can explain stuff that is more empowering for children, right?
Sure. Yeah, like we want to talk to them on their level,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we don't want to talk to a 6-year-old and start telling them all the dynamics of, coronavirus and how it started. And we really just want to talk to them about this is safe. We're being safe. We don't want to get sick. So we're washing our hands. We're just taking a lot of precautions so that we don't get the flu. And it really is, sorry, that's
Oh,
the
it's
new
fine.
therapy puppy in the background.
Oh, you know what's been so great about these is people are doing these from home, so I've heard so many different animals pipe up in these.
Yeah, he's brand new, so he keeps me busy. But, we really want to talk to them about, we don't need to be afraid. We want to make home a safe environment for them, because safety gives us comfort when we feel safe and secure. So we don't want to talk about, oh my gosh, don't touch the doorknob. We don't want to overblow things, but we want to make sure that, yeah, we're making sure the kids are washing their hands. We're making sure that we explain to them, maybe they like to go play at the trampoline park and we can't do that right now because we don't want, somebody may have the flu. We don't want to get sick. Remember, when people get sick, they can pass it on. So we really want to use kid-friendly verbiage with them without making them think the world is exploding.
Yeah.
And we really want to make sure that we're giving them that safe space at home to talk about it.
I love the safety creates comfort piece. I feel like safety also creates, comfort, and safety can create certainty too. And in uncertain times, one of the things that we want is certainty. And I'm curious, Sue, do you have recommendations for people where, what are some things people could do right now that they might not be thinking of that could give them a stronger sense of comfort and safety at home? Maybe there's something they're not thinking of, like they could, move their furniture in a certain way, something that maybe gives them a sense of control over that, or a little bit
Right.
more empowered.
Right. So what I've been telling my clients is to keep a routine. Routine is really good for our sense of well-being. So we want to get up, especially if we've got kids at home that are in school. So we want to get up and have breakfast, maybe have a couple hours of school time, then have some free time, and then a couple hours of school time in the afternoon. We want to keep our daily routine as close to what was pre-coronavirus. We want to keep it as close to that as possible. So if the kids had basketball practice, say, and obviously there's no basketball practice right now, but can they go outside? Do you have a hoop? Can they go outside with the basketball and practice dribbling? Can they practice their conditioning? If somebody has dance, they go to a dance studio and they do dance. Well, there's no dance right now, so maybe we pop up those things online and they can run through some routines. They can run through some practices, and we can do some makeshift stuff at home to help them stay in their comfort zone. Because a lot of times, people find comfort in that knowing what we're going to do. I mean, we then complain about it sometimes that, okay, we're in a rut, I don't want to do the same thing every day. It's like, Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
But we really do find comfort when we know what's happening and coming. And so it's really important to kind of keep that at home as well. Sometimes people are writing. I've had families write out a schedule and just post it on the wall. And when the kids maybe forget what they're doing or what's coming next, they can go look and see and say, oh yeah, this is what we're doing today.
Everyone watching, I encourage you to listen to that piece. There is something in there that is so important with what's going on. When she's talking about routine, human beings were such creatures of habit, right? And what is happening right now is not only is there's all this fear and anxiety with what's happening with the coronavirus, what's happening with the economy, what's happening with my job, but our habits, our fundamental foundational habits that we have done every single day for the majority of our adult lives and our any time of life, for kids too, have been radically disrupted. We're not going to the job we go to every day for 20 years. We're not sending the kids aren't going to school at the same day, at the same time they've done every day. And humans were such creatures of habit. We function because we learn, right, to build these unconscious habits so we can devote more high level stuff for things like this that we may not have done before. So it's a new task. What Sue's saying is so profound and so important about look at how you can create certainty in your habits, because when we take away those foundational pieces, we feel so, it's kind of like you're on the boat and it's rocking really bad and you're just wanting it to stay still. I love what you said too about having people actually sit down with a pen and paper and write out a schedule, right? And I'm guessing too, if people normally get up at a certain time, they should get up at a certain time. They normally go to bed at a certain time, get up at the same time, go to bed at the same time, right?
Right. And I think too, I know for me, that getting some of that out of my head and putting it down on paper helps me to process.
Yeah.
So, when we think about it, we process things one way. When we write it down, we process it. When we read it, we process it another way. And when we say it out loud, we process it yet another way. So all those things will help it kind of feels foggy in your head sometimes when there's so much anxiety and you can't focus. So that kind of helps everybody to focus. It's the same thing with a to-do list. If I have a lot to do, I'll put it on paper. cross it off. Makes it much easier to deal with than just having it bounce around my head like a ping pong ball. So, and people are going to be triggered at different things with this coronavirus that they may not understand, that may come from their own childhood. So maybe as a child, they were food insecure. And this right now, with everybody hoarding and running to the grocery store and taking things off the shelves, that may cause people to re-experience that. And they may not know why. So in the moment, it may not be necessary to know the why as much as to recognize, okay, I'm anxious. I don't know why at the moment. We're going to we'll think about it, what's going on. And sometimes it'll come into your head that, okay, this is really worrying me, that maybe I can't feed my family, or maybe I need to make sure that I have all of these things in my house so that I feel secure. And I think that's what's been going on with the toilet paper runs and the paper towel runs. And, people want to feel secure, and they're afraid, well, what if we run out? What if we can't go to the store? What if things stop? And so there are positive things that are going on with the coronavirus. That grocery stores are staying open. They're restocking their shelves. It may take another day to get what you need. We don't have, an end of the world kind of scenario right now. And I think that sometimes that pops into our head because we love to watch movies like Contagion and, The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And it all starts with this thing and it goes to different people. And so that can also trigger us. Even when we enjoy watching shows, that could totally trigger all of this because we're like, oh my gosh, it's happening in real life. And so, we have to take a step back and say, okay, we're good. We're not there yet. We're okay.
Full disclosure, I have absolutely in the last 2 months rewatched Outbreak and the first 3 Resident Evil movies about zombie apocalypses with this going on. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm right there. So you mentioned processing and triggering, and I want to circle back to those.
Sure.
So someone who finds themselves being triggered by something, whatever it is, what are some strategies that people can employ, because they may not have access to their normal resources that they would otherwise. So they're at home, they have their 4 walls, they have their physical environment they live in. What are some strategies that people can employ that they could do so if they feel themselves getting triggered, to try to process through some of those emotions? I know you mentioned writing things down.
Right.
I found that super powerful. What else would you suggest for people?
I really like journaling. So people can just journal where nobody else is going to read it. They don't even have to create sentences. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just put down your thoughts. I like art therapy. So I would love for people, sometimes they just need to draw a picture with the colors, whatever colors they want, how they feel. And it works so well for kids. It will work for adults. I know it sounds silly, but sometimes it's a way that maybe consciously we can't say what we're feeling or what our anxiety is, but we can get it out.
Yeah.
I have a thing that I teach to my kiddos, well, all my clients, and it's tapping. Let me see if I can get my fingers in. And if you tap one finger, the slower you tap, the slower you will breathe. It's automatic. It always works. Slower you go, the slower you breathe.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and it will work anywhere. So if you're driving and you feel anxious, you can tap on the steering wheel. You can't even talk at a normal rate when you're doing it because it slows you down. So recognizing the anxiety. So, okay, I feel the butterflies in my stomach. Maybe my face gets flushed. I need to slow down, because when we slow down, then we're able to take a look at it and say, okay, really, what is scaring me right now? And then we can look at the reality of it and say, okay, I have food here, right? We're good with that. We have toilet paper, or we have schoolwork to do, but the kids have a routine. They're going to do their schoolwork. We may not be able to go to the theater, but we can rent a movie and have family movie night. We can do something at home maybe make a project, do a project. So understanding the anxiety that it's there, and then just being able to say, what's the reality of that thought? Because a lot of times we are catastrophizing.
Yeah.
Did I say that correctly?
I know. So,
right.
Yeah. 100% with you.
Right. So, we go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And somewhere in between is the reality of it. So that's why I'm saying that writing things down a lot helps, because you can write down what that negative thought is, what that anxious thought, and then in the column next to it, you can really kind of write down what that reality thought or what the reality is.
When you're talking columns, so are you suggesting then that people, when they're writing, they divide their paper up into columns? And if so, what would those columns be?
If it's helpful for them to do that, absolutely.
Okay.
So I would have one that would be labeled my anxious thoughts, and then I would have the one next to it labeled the reality. So maybe the anxious thought is, this is never going to end. Okay, and the reality thought is, yes, it is. It's already subsiding in other areas of the world.
Yep.
Where they're having less new cases. So we know that it's going to slow down. So that could be the reality thought of it. And, maybe the negative thought is, I'm not ever going to be able to see my friends. That it's only a short term. This is not forever. We're doing this as a precaution. So helping people to understand that everything that's going on around us is not the new forever norm. It's just the new norm for right now.
Yes.
It's kind of like understanding that we're all doing the best that we can do with what we have right now.
Yeah.
And if we can kind of join together and realize that and understand that, and maybe we have neighbors who can't go to the store, so maybe we offer, hey, if anybody needs anything, I'm happy to bring it back. You don't have to open your door. I'll leave it on your doorstep for you. Doing something for somebody else also helps us feel in control. So it will also help us to settle that down a little bit and say, oh, look, I'm still useful. I can still do things. We can still have a good, society. We can still keep our friends. We're just at arm's length right now.
I love that. Sue, this is incredible. I want to close with 3 rapid fire questions for you.
Oh no, here we go.
Ready?
Okay.
The book, so people are at home right now. Many of the people, I read something, maybe up to 1 billion people right now around the world are either self-isolating, quarantined, on lockdown, shelter in placing. I don't know. There's so many terms going around. So it's one of those terms.
Right.
Point is they're at home and they have more time in their 4 walls than they may have in most times in their life. If you could recommend one book for people to read during that time, what would that be?
Okay, so I like a lot of different books. I love John Grisham.
Yeah, those are fun.
Love Grisham books because I can view it in my head as I'm reading it. I have Olive sitting on my bookshelf right now that I want to read. I would encourage them to find something that they love. Find an author that they love. This isn't always, if you're having a hard time focusing, it might be a hard time to find a new author. But maybe find one that you really love and maybe read another book on it. Maybe look into one of the book clubs that are online.
Yeah.
And see if something just happens to hit you, because then if it's an online book club, you're going to have that socialization with it too.
Love that. Movie or documentary you'd recommend people watch?
I just watched Knives Out.
That's a fun one, isn't it?
It is very fun because I like the old school Clue movie.
Yeah.
And the old school Murder by Death. That humor gets to me. And so I needed to have something a little bit more light to just kind of sit down and watch. I just watched a series on Netflix called The Stranger. Super good series that Netflix put out. So I liked it.
And podcasts you'd recommend people listen to?
Okay, here we go with podcasts. I just told you.
Be honest.
Hey, I have a sick sense of humor here. Okay. I love listening to all the murder podcasts. And so I'm listening to all those things. Those are my favorites. So I can't tell somebody else what great podcast to listen to. If you've got one, definitely listen to yours. But I'm all about the true crime, and I don't know. That's my psychology mind kicking in.
I love it. You and I were talking about that offline. I think I find those things so fascinating. The extremes in psychology and
right.
What does it take for someone to go from one end to the other and vice versa.
And this might not be the good time to get started on that habit.
Exactly. Make sure that's already cultivated before you go.
Right. We don't want to make people more depressed or more anxious.
Yeah.
So in the interim of that, then maybe create a great playlist.
I like that.
Great so sit down and create a great playlist that if you've got an Alexa sitting around, that you can just say, play this playlist, and all these great songs will come on for you.
Love that.
So I started doing that. I love that idea. So
everyone, I encourage you to rewatch this a few times. There is so much wisdom Sue shared here, with whether it's working on building structure and habits, setting a set schedule for yourself, how to recognize when trauma is coming up, and actually how to process through it, and some simple strategies that you can use that will literally help you slow yourself down in the moment. There's a ton of wisdom here, and there's a ton of resources for you to not only use for yourself, but to share with your children as well. And I think that one of the things that's so powerful with this is that, this is a time, and Sue echoed it perfectly, it's a time for us to come together. It's a time for us to support one another. And if the more we come together and the more we utilize some of these tools and strategies that Sue's sharing with us in the moments, the more we're going to be able to transition into life beyond this and not have the lingering effects linger over us for longer than they need to. So Sue, this was incredible. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time, your willingness to share, your generosity with your vocational skill set. This was absolutely incredible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.